year, but more can change in 1 week. Believe the hype, the train's leaving tonight. Hit the throttle, we heading straight to Chicago. It's only getting better, this is our future endeavor. I can't wait to see the fight between Pac, Kenny, Omega. It's bound to be killer, the winner have to consider. It will all be over quicker, deliver the V-trigger. It's picking up, Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks. Many have tried, none have outdone us. Name the top 10 team, none are above us.
What's going on, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio, Christopher Daniels, collectively known as SoCal and Central, or SCU. You are listening to the Elite Podcast, and it is the worst podcast I've ever been on. SCU later.
Welcome back, everyone, to another live edition of Wednesday night's main event, side podcast of the All Elite Podcast. I am your host, All Elite Andy, and as always, I am joined by your boy, the Beanie Man, Big Match AJ. AJ, how's it going?
Going good. My tickets for Bash at the Beach are purchased. I'm all excited for it, but we got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about. We are fresh off another episode of Dynamite, as always, with Wednesday night's main event. We do a little review of AEW Dynamite, and then we give you the best match on the card or the best match of the week. Maybe it's a match from Dark, a match that we think is Wednesday night's main event, the match you need to check out. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and just jump into the show, the Chicago show, a big show that they've been hyping up almost since the beginning, really, when they did Double or Nothing, or not Double or Nothing, All Out in Chicago. They've really been hyping the show up, that they were coming back right before Thanksgiving, going to be a big tradition. We really expected a big show here. I'm not sure if I loved this episode. There was quite a few things that really weren't the best on this card, or any AEW card for that matter, but it wasn't the worst. We open up the show, we have Chris Jericho's Thanksgiving celebration, we have the Inner Circle here to give him gifts. Jericho's father shows up, Justin Roberts comes in, and he reads Chris Jericho's thank you letter from Time Warner and TNT, and then the Inner Circle decide to attack Justin Roberts. We then have SCU come out and make the save as members of the marching band who were here for Jericho's celebration.
Yep.
This went on a really long time. If you really like Jericho segments or stuff like this, you probably loved it. It was kind of like, not This Is Your Life, but sort of, because they were trying to incorporate many different things into this one, like, 20-minute segment of just Jericho and the Inner Circle, and not very great, like, content in general.
Yeah, it reminded me, you remember when Kevin Owens and Jericho were best friends and they had the celebration of friendship? It reminded me of that, except that had an ending that actually made the whole entire segment worthwhile. This just had SCU attack them, so you have like this go on for what, 15 minutes just for SCU to come out and beat them up, and then that's it. It was just a long walk for a short drink of water. If the payoff had been better, I'd be fine with this segment. You had Virgil on the mic just being ridiculous.
I don't know who that is. I think you mean Soul Train Jones.
Soul Train Jones
was great.
The highlight.
I mean, I don't know if he was the highlight, but he was the one who ended up taking most of the beat down as well. SCU really didn't do a whole lot when they came down. They sort of broke it up a little bit, beat up Soul Train a little bit even, and then that was it. They didn't really come off even looking as that great. Scorpio Sky especially didn't, like, he didn't look bad, but this should have been a point to really make him seem like, oh shit, maybe he'll win tonight, where it just didn't give me that vibe at all. It was just him making the save type of thing. Yeah. From there we get the announcement that Marco Martinez is going to be replacing Tony Schiavone briefly. I'm glad this was a brief thing. I'm not sure who Marco Martinez is. Too. And honestly, to me, I just took it as someone who was under the lights, really didn't know or he probably knew a lot about wrestling, a lot about this, was probably really excited for the opportunity, and then this is what happens from it. So,
yep.
I mean, it wasn't the best showing from Marco, but we're not going to spend a whole lot of time just harping on this guy, but I think that they should have, I don't know, I think it was definitely like a sponsorship thing, but don't just take money and be like, yeah, we'll put your guy on commentary.
Right? He sounded sleepy as hell to me. He just sounded like he was tired. I could barely hear him half the time.
It was very quiet. It was weird. It was very strange. So definitely not really. It kind of took me out of this match. We have the Best Friends coming out for their match. They get attacked by the Lucha Brothers. Orange Cassidy makes a save, and we finally get the match. We end up getting the Best Friends picking up the win with Trent, of all people, getting a victory over Rey Fenix in about 8 minutes, which was a really interesting move. It was cool to see Trent continue to get somewhat of a push. This match ends up stemming into Trent versus Fenix next week on next week's Dynamite. So really interesting setup here. Really surprised, if nothing else, that Trent, of all people, is sort of getting this establishment as a really top guy almost, because he's beaten two members of the top tag team, the number one tag team. It's essentially undeniable at this point.
Yeah, I'm down with this. I'm down with the Trent push. I think he deserves it. He's a fantastic wrestler. Every match he's had has been great. And as much as I love Chuck E. T, it's not like you're going to do Chuck E. T and Rey Fenix because you did Penta and Trent. So this makes sense, I guess. I don't know. I'm into it. This is one of the more, like you said, the commentary took me out, but this is one of the better matches on this show.
Absolutely. Well, definitely one of the better matches, and it was the beginning of a trend for anyone in AEW who was a number one ranked superstar, essentially just a bunch of losses for the number one ranked people. Transitioning right into that, we have Emi Sakura and Bea Priestley taking on Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander absolutely stood out as someone that,
so good.
For the first time, they've done it a little bit with Jamie Hayter, but Chris especially felt like she might be a big deal in AEW, a new face that they really might put some effort into pushing or making into a big deal, just because when she made her entrance, everything about it, they just kind of were pushing it as she was a big deal.
And she did great. She was absolutely great on this match.
Oh, absolutely. There was no real hiccups here from any of the women. All four of them did really well. This gave Bea Priestley a really good chance to look like a really good not a single, but she looked really good. Bea has had trouble in previous tag team matches and just previous matches in general, really finding her footing. And I honestly feel like it's because they've been force feeding this Bea versus Britt thing. And as much as it works on paper, when they're in the ring together, it just does not gel.
Yeah, and Bea, like you said, is so good. And so getting her away from this Britt Baker feud, I think, is, like you said, the best thing for her right now. I don't know what they're going to do with her. I hope they do have a plan for her, especially coming off of this win. And I hope I don't know that she would move up in the rankings because this is a tag match, but I would hope that she can start making a name and build up on them.
If nothing, I almost see it as an opportunity for them to sort of position her on the rankings. Not sure what her win-loss is off the top of my head, but if it puts her anywhere near what Allie is at or above what Allie has been at in the past, then this is a good option to push her up there without really doing anything crazy about it, So I thought that was interesting. Also a good way to just sort of give Hikaru a loss without taking an official loss. So I don't really see a reason for her to move down the rankings. That's something that I will actually be paying attention to. If they try and slide Britt up just because Hikaru took a loss that she didn't even take the pin on, then I will be like, that's good. That's what the rankings are for, as we've mentioned before. But I will be complaining about that. So
I will too.
A fun match. Good job for Emi and Bea and all the women involved. Really.
Yeah, good match. I thoroughly enjoyed this one.
And then we get a promo from Jon Moxley, sort of setting up the end of this show, actually. But he cuts a decent promo talking about how he's made his way up to the top, and he wonders if anyone's crazy enough to come after him and be the hero. And he says if anyone tries to be the hero, they're going to end up getting hurt. I really didn't think that this would lead to what we ended the show with, but we'll get to that at the end. Yeah,
I didn't either, but like you said, we'll get there.
Mox's promo work, though, continues to be
great.
Yeah, he's always been a decent or a good talent, so on the mic, especially people forget about that. I think with his time in WWE and stuff like that, they forget how good he can be. This isn't necessarily one of his blow you away moments. Those will come, but this was just a standard decent promo.
I would say even before WWE, he was a natural promo.
Oh yeah, that's my point. Is like, and before WWE, he was so good and had such emotion that really made people feel or like understand what he was trying to say. Then he went to WWE, kind of got watered down, or was just never really given the opportunity to do those type of like emotionally crazy promos.
Yes.
And now he's sort of making his way there, and it'll be interesting to see how, because that's where Moxley shines, is when he's like losing his mind, has been screwed over and just like screwed by the establishment type of thing.
Absolutely.
And can really get into his emotions. That I think is the best. And I think we could be on the way there. Just with these promos, you can feel it coming. So from there, we get Cody Rhodes making his big return, which is against a not very big opponent. He takes on Matt Nix, picks up a very quick victory in a minute and a half. He ended up hitting like a springboard Oscutter, the thing that Will Ospreay always hits, instead of the disaster kick at one point. I thought that was interesting. Sort of caught me off guard. Not sure if it was just because he realized that he wouldn't have been able to hit the disaster kick from that spot, so he kind of changed it up at the last second, or if he's going to add that into his repertoire.
I'd be down. I love the Oscutter, and he did it well.
Yeah, he hit it perfectly, and if it was something that he transitioned or changed to do at the last minute, genius. I think we'll know for sure if he kind of just switches back to the disaster kick, but we'll have to wait and see. Nonetheless, decent match for Cody, really quick win. Matt Nix doesn't look like anyone that will be in AEW again unless they need like a quick job guy and he's in the circuit, but didn't do bad. He just didn't really have like a look of someone that I would expect them to pull in. Then again, talking about them, people I didn't expect them to pull in. After this match, Cody Rhodes is calling out MJF, and we get an attack from the Butcher and the Blade. No one seemed to know what was going on. Jim Ross was very confused. Jim Ross, for the first time in this whole night, was my voice of reason, where I totally was with him. And he's like, he just sounded confused. He was like, who are these people? And the way he was asking Excalibur, it was literally like if we're...
Yeah, it wasn't like, who are they? It was, who are they?
Like, what's going on? Can you briefly explain this to me? So you know their names? Oh, cool. Like, tell me more. And there wasn't a whole lot more to tell about them. It wasn't the best. The Butcher is apparently... Andy something, I don't know his name. He was the more impressive one, I think, just based upon size. The Blade is Pepper Parks, someone that you may be very familiar with if you're familiar with like the Upper East Coast indie scene.
So it is not Silas Young. Okay,
no, definitely
I was
not
under
Silas
the impression
Young.
up until this point that it looked like Silas Young.
Mm-hmm. The Butcher absolutely looks a little like Silas Young, but he's another independent wrestler. Andy, I don't remember his last name off the top of my head.
I cannot sugarcoat this. This was awkward and bad, and the crowd was dead silent, and I don't understand why they did this way. But
bad guy for them to do it against. Like, not even just because it's Cody and he's the superstar, just because, like, Cody has enough going on. I feel like these people aren't all going to be involved with MJF, so... What is going on? Because, let me finish. I guess Allie ends up exposing herself as the person behind this attack. Maybe for retribution on what we had happen with Brandy Rhodes. But, man, that's a bit much when Cody really hasn't had a lot going on with Brandy. And, yes, it is kind of interesting in the sense of, like, damn, that sucks. You got to deal with your woman's problems to that level. But I don't want Cody wrapped in with all that either, so I hope that's not even where we're going. This was just a weird debut.
I've wanted Allie to be heel. I've been talking about this for a while. I've been saying Allie is a much better heel, and she is. This is not how I wanted it to happen, Andrew.
Well, this would have worked against, like, maybe someone like Janela, because he's a little bit of a lower card babyface type. Maybe even, like, a Darby. Have them just destroy Darby and actually like kill him, because Darby is just, that's this type of thing, and then have Darby have to face these two and overcome them or something. This just isn't what I want. Not with Cody. I want Cody to really just have a feud with MJF. If they're really going to avoid that, to try and push this out longer, that will draw some critique from me, just because Cody, like this Cody MJF thing, if they were going to pull the trigger and go all in. Don't don't try and cock tease us now. You already did that enough. You've already done enough. So
we're ready for it. Like, you don't have to wait anymore. Now is absolutely the time. When else? Because he threw in the towel. You have him promoting on him. You kept Cody off of TV for 2 weeks. Now is absolutely the time to put these two together and just have them start killing each other.
yeah, so in my opinion, this just was really, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. It really didn't come off as ultra impressive either. When you know that you want to see certain people signed to AEW and there are only so many like spots that could even potentially be left in this company, seeing people that you're really unfamiliar with debut in a way that's really underwhelming, it just really leaves you like shit. Like, once again, in the same way as the Dark Order, if they had spent a month of video packages for these guys and then they randomly debut, like, they don't have to say, oh, we're coming for you, Cody. It could just be hype for these guys, so when they come out and Excalibur's like, it's the Blade, I'm not like, how do you know? How do you know this? Like, who did you talk to know what the hell is going on? But Jim Ross has no idea, and no one in the crowd could possibly know either. So just in the terms of that, that's where I didn't love it.
And just more stuck on the MJF Cody feud. Cody was saying, we don't have to wait. Wait for what, dude? Just fight him. There's nothing going on.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to see a wait here. I would like to see things really go forward, but it does. Again, it just didn't really feel that way based upon the introduction of these two characters in Alley. So we'll wait and see on that one. But this is one of the first AEW like storylines or whatever that I'm just not really that interested in because of how and they're really, to me, messing up the MJF and Cody thing, which was really simple. You just didn't need to get, you already have Wardlow involved. You don't need to get a whole lot more people involved in this feud. It doesn't have to be always Cody and 5 guys against whoever and 5 guys.
Yeah, so, I totally agree.
But after that, we did get a much more interesting match. We got Kenny Omega versus Pac. This was, in terms of the levels of entertainment, this was way more up there. Kenny and Pac are consistently 2 of the best like talents in the world, let alone in AEW, and they really gave it a good, nice, interesting television match. But Kenny Omega ends up picking up the victory off of a roll-up on Pac. It was interesting because we have the roll-up 1-2, Pac kicks out. I believe he tried to roll up Omega, didn't get much of a roll-up himself. Omega then rolls Pac up again, locks his leg up, and gets the 3 count in what can be seen as, I guess, an upset victory because it was a roll-up win. I just wanted Pac to win, so that was my biggest gripe. But otherwise, these two are great. This was what you would expect from them. Not necessarily pay-per-view main event status, but definitely a good match on TV.
It seems so weird for Kenny Omega to beat Pac like that to me. If he was going to beat him, I'd rather he hit the one-winged angel and just end it and like just really beat him. But whatever. I'm not going to harp on it too much. Like you said, this was a great match, and it was a great match. This was far more entertaining than what we had been getting, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, at least in terms of the grand scale of everything, it doesn't seem like this is upsetting the rankings in a way that's going to bother me. Based upon how we close out the show. But it will bother me if we see Pac drop drastically just to this roll-up loss to Omega.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, Pac has continued to impress, and I just, like, he does only lose to people who are really, like, up there, like Omega, and in that main event level of talent. But still, this was one I really just wanted to be able to see Pac sort of have Omega's number. That would have been an interesting story to continue to tell. But nonetheless, I think this isn't over. I think we could see a continuation of this over the next couple months.
Yeah, I think so too. And that is a feud I'm looking forward to if that's the case.
Absolutely. From there, we get the announcement about Trent facing Fenix next week, and we get Paige and MJF. They both get a couple of promos before their match, and we get the quick Dynamite Diamond Ring match. It only lasts nearly 7 minutes. MJF with a quick victory over Adam Page, exactly what we expected. Wardlow gets involved. MJF gets the cheap victory with a nasty, in terms of, like, it wasn't even that it was sick, it was just not well done. The crossroads that made it look sick by MJF. Wasn't the worst crossroads, but it just looked nasty the way he brought Hangman down with it.
Yeah, it did. This is exactly what we said was going to happen, so I don't even know what to add to it. We knew this was coming. We knew that he was going to win in some cheesy way. We knew that MJF was going to get the gimmick. He got the gimmick. We knew that MJF, like you said on Monday, they showed their hand so much here. And the only thing I'm upset about is that this was a very short match, and we didn't really get to see these guys go at it.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't very long. Didn't really do much to progress either guy, really, in terms of anything, because they just fought for literally a diamond ring. After the match, DDP comes out to present the diamond ring. MJF doesn't want a handshake. He spits gum into DDP's hand, and he gets held apart from a brawl with an old man.
Yeah, I hated that. I don't say that lightly. I hated that. Why? I expected, okay, Wardlow is going to take out DDP. They're going to beat him up. Maybe somebody comes out for this. Nope. It's DDP looking strong against MJF and Wardlow, which leads me to be like, are we building up a DDP match in 2019? Because if we're not, then why the hell would you put him over like that?
Yeah, it wasn't even like, I mean, you're right. They just didn't do much to take out DDP, didn't really care. Like, it wasn't the best look for MJF or Wardlow. DDP continues to look fine. So, yeah, I don't know, man. This just wasn't the best for anyone. Again, they just didn't get MJF over in the ways I think they wanted to. So,
yeah,
it was like you said, kind of what we had expected from this Dynamite Diamond Ring thing. That was just never a really good idea to begin with. And I'm not trying to come at it so harshly, but when they had discussed things like a television championship, and before we even get that, we're getting this corny ring that is just being used as a setup for an MJF prop, I don't love it.
And not just a diamond ring, the first diamond ring. They made that very clear that there would be future diamond rings, and I'm hoping to God that they changed their mind.
Yeah, I really hope that they don't introduce more diamond rings, or like that they try and continue this whole thing. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. AJ, go ahead and introduce the next segment, please.
After that, we had Dustin Rhodes doing a promo on Jake Hager, but he got attacked by the Inner Circle. So the Young Bucks ran out for the save. Dustin Rhodes and the Young Bucks are Matt Jackson's back in action. Young Bucks coming out, super kick party. They do the super kick. Dustin does a big boot, and they clear the ring.
Yeah, Dustin Rhodes. Jake Hager, the Inner Circle.
Yep.
Dude, I don't know. It's fine. It's a continuation of stuff that we've seen in the beginning of AEW, or like a continuation of this whole build. But I mean, Jake Hager's first real feud or matches are going to be with Dustin Rhodes. I don't get that. I don't really understand. It doesn't make a whole ton of sense for me. Jake Hager is someone who could have really been like used as a good focal piece of AEW, and he hasn't been anything but a stand there guy for Jericho, and like a heater who just takes a couple bumps, gives a couple bumps, and that's it. Where he literally could have been pushed as like a all-American contender in AEW, where they could have pushed someone up to that main event level at this point who didn't have that feel coming in. Like guys like Pac and Moxley, I don't really give them a whole lot of credit for making these guys the top guys, because you didn't have to do a whole lot to make it happen. What I would have been giving them credit for is if maybe someone like Jungle Boy was viewed as like an upper mid card guy at this point, because he had so much steam going into AEW in the beginning of AEW, and right now a lot of those guys who had that steam, they've maybe not intentionally, but they've really cooled them off. Guys like Private Party, Jungle Boy, and I know that's not necessarily AEW's fault with Luchasaurus getting injured and stuff like that, but they were riding a lot of losses going into that injury. So and that's where I'm.
No, you're dead right.
I know Jake Hager's not the guy to like spend my time complaining about them not utilizing or promoting in a proper way. But when we are doing segments like this that take up 5 minutes of TV time that could have been used as a video promo or a hype promo for like someone that hasn't been featured prominently, even a Kip Sabian, someone that I'm not even a huge fan of. But maybe that's how I become a fan of him or anyone.
Yeah.
So...
And I didn't mind, because they were talking about it before when Dustin Rhodes was doing commentary on Dark, that he wants his revenge on Jake Hager. What I assumed was that, okay, we're going to get a match with Jake Hager and Dustin Rhodes, and Jake Hager's going to destroy him, and then that's going to be it. I didn't expect that we were going to go down into an angle.
And apparently one that's going to take a little ways to get there. So, I mean, I'm with you there because if, like, it's a 2-hour show. We only have so much time for so many angles. And it's not to say that I don't want Dustin to be featured on AEW, but I thought him being gone was, like, more a sense of him going to be a coach and not he was going to come back and be in one of the main storylines that we have going right now. So I don't know.
We've made the joke, but Dustin Rhodes is right now your good hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's an older guy.
And he'll give a good promo and stuff, and I'm sure they'll at least make this decent. And again, it does all make sense and plays into everything that's gone on. So it makes sense for Dustin to have to address it. You can't really just have him come back and pretend nothing ever happened with these guys. So I guess my only hope is that it's not a really long and drawn out thing, because I think that Hager and the Inner Circle as a whole could just be better served than in a feud with Dustin. So I think it might totally also just be an easy way to keep the Bucks feuding with Pride and Powerful without it just being a 2-on-2 feud. So in that sense, I guess I'll give them a little bit more credit. I think my biggest problem is just there seems to be a segment once a week, almost every week, where it's the Young Bucks and Dustin or Cody or Hangman or Kenny or someone in a brawl that lasts about 5 minutes that quickly happens just to really not do a whole lot to even progress what's going on. That's a booking technique that they've utilized a lot, and the more they do it, the less it impresses me.
Yeah, because we were marking out the first few times they did it, but at this point I just do not care.
Yeah, it's just it feels like something we've seen a lot of. So that's the one biggest drawback of that as well. From there, we do get a promo that I do enjoy. I'm surprised to say it, one of my highlight points of AEW this week is another Dark Order infomercial style vignette. These guys, well, it's not even them because it's just a promo or a vignette, but this is what I would like to have seen to build up anyone going forward or anything. This was really interesting, really fun, and I think could build to something really good with the Dark Order going forward. So,
and a fun fact, and I have a theory on why this is good. The fat guy who's doing these, he's actually a guy who was on doing Road 2 and doing a lot of these hype videos and a lot of these packages, and I think he probably is helping out with this, and I think that might be partly why this is playing out so well with these vignettes, and I hope we keep getting really, really cool vignettes like these. And so whoever's doing them, if it's him or whoever, I really think it's just been doing a great job promoting this. And this, because it's not even, we were talking about a rebranding, it's not even really a rebranding, it's just, it makes me more interested in the Dark Order.
Yes, exactly, and a team that I did not think could be salvaged in this way, by just sort of keeping their gimmick or what they have going, but now expanding on it. And I'm sort of thinking about it now. It's an interesting way to go about things, to establish them as a team that can almost be ranked or in your rankings, and they go away for almost a month and just get these vignettes to help build them up some more, and then they come back and already have that reputation as a winning team, a team that has done some things within AEW, but now has a lot more to their character or what they have going on. So opposed to the initial week where it's just Uno telling Marco to join the Dark Order, this has extended and become much better. So that's why I'm willing to always give them the benefit of the doubt on things like Cody and the Blade and the Butcher. And I'm sure this episode, as opposed to others we've done in the past, sounds like the most complainy. But that's just because we don't love everything. And we're not just going to pretend we do. But we also see that when given time, the things that we don't love sometimes turn into things that we really enjoy. And with the Dark Order, it is the biggest example of that. I really am beginning to enjoy this and think when they come back, if they can do a couple more of these promos, once they come back, I'll be really into it.
Yeah, same. I'm totally in on this. I want to join the Dark Order. So sign me up, boys.
Yeah, so that it didn't take them long to get us in on that, which is surprising. So that's why maybe you never know. The Blade, the Butcher, and the Bunny, maybe we'll get into it later on. You never know. We do get an announcement of Dustin and the Young Bucks taking on Proud and Powerful and Sammy G in the main event for next week. The only thing I don't love about this is Jake Hager not being involved again. Like, I'm really confused as to what, maybe he has like a Brock Lesnar contract where he only wrestles like once a year because he's never really wrestled in AEW, has he?
No, he hasn't. You're right, but
maybe a squash. For some reason I feel like, but maybe not.
Not a one. He has not wrestled officially in a ring. He's just been a heater, and you would think that you would have it be Proud and Powerful.
Not even that good of one either. To be to be like completely honest with you,
you're right.
When he's in there corpsing everything Jericho says, and that's like his gimmick is to be there and be stone faced and not react to it. It's fine because I get it. I'm like I laugh along with him and some of the shit Jericho's saying, but at the same time, dude, like that isn't what I was really expecting from you. And you're a heel, but you're laughing at everything. Like it's I don't know.
No, I hear you. He really hasn't. He just hasn't done much. A heater is supposed to get heat, and he really hasn't done that. Not in my opinion, anyways. So I don't know.
Yeah, he just plays the role as a guy who does interfering sometimes and is just a strong man. Again, I just think he could have been served in such a better purpose, even if it was to get someone like Hangman over. A Hangman and Hager feud should have already been in the process and going, not just totally non-existent now at this point. It was something that almost looked like they were leading to and totally backed off of it. So maybe it has something to do with Hager's MMA thing or his deal with Bellator or whoever he signed with.
Right?
Has to at this point, but I don't know. Proud and Powerful and Sammy G, good team going up against Dustin and the Young Bucks. Another this will be a good 6-man. I don't know if it would be a main event per se, but that's the main event they have scheduled for next week. So I'm sure it'll be impressive, but I think it could just end in another huge brawl type thing.
It's gonna, because I don't know how else that ends, and it's not exactly what I would pick for a main event. I would be cool if it was the opener or even a mid-card match, but the main event, I don't know. This isn't a main event that I'm going, man, I can't wait to watch Dynamite next week.
Yeah, the only like I said, the downside I have to it is just it's just nothing too crazy that blows up at you, and I don't know, man. Dustin's fine. Like I said, I don't mind Dustin. This will be a good match. But it's like you said, I guess it's just nothing saying like I can't wait to watch AEW next week because of this main event. Like in this week's main event, we almost had the same type of feeling, not because it was a bad match on paper, but because we had an idea of who was going to win, and our idea was spot on. Chris Jericho picks up the victory over Scorpio Sky in our main event on this week's Dynamite for the AEW Championship. The fact that it was for the title essentially just gave everything away. Because you were you had two options. You do the guaranteed victory, or you do the victory where it just makes no sense to put your world championship. Like, they're not going to do a double champion that early and not in that form. So it was fine to go this way, I guess, but I feel like it hurt things because, like, it just you isolated both of your championships for a match that meant nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and the match itself was good.
Really
I liked
good.
The match. It was a great match. It did show me something that we talked about, that Scorpio Sky can hang in the main event, which was good. He really did come out and he really did give it his all. And so for that reason, I liked the match. But like you said, they showed their hand. We knew it was going to happen. There was no doubt that Jericho was going to lose. And it took a lot out of it.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments that did get the crowd into it to sort of bite on the idea of Scorpio winning. Might have even got me to bite a tiny bit of saying there's no way they're really going to do it, but it was still fun, still good, a good match for Scorpio. Like you said, he really did a good job at showcasing himself, and that was the point of this. I will admit and will agree with that. He didn't look all that bad coming out of this, and that was something I was a little bit worried about. The thing that did seem a little awkward to me was at the end of the match, Jericho was holding Sky in the walls, and it almost seemed like Jericho was intending on this to last the whole time until he was interrupted, but Sky sort of flipped over and got out of the walls of Jericho. Jericho goes around and celebrates for a minute, has to lock Sky back in the walls of Jericho, and then we get Jon Moxley coming out to make the save. This wasn't bad. This was really fun to see Mox get that entrance and make the save, I guess, because he didn't really hit the ring. He just distracted Jericho enough to make Jericho be like, what the hell is going on? And Jericho he doesn't want anything to do with Moxley at this point. You know it. So it was pretty cool to see that. Jericho's facials gave it, it made that a really special moment. But it shouldn't be, ignored that this was a good moment for Sky to showcase as a singles. And while we did know who was going to win, Sky got that couple or at least one time of making the crowd bite and believe it could happen, which means in the future the crowd will believe it could happen when it does happen, because I think that Sky is an inevitable world champion for AEW, and this was a good showing that he could potentially be that guy down the line.
Yeah, it was the TKO for me when he missed the belt and he hit him with the TKO. I was like, oh my God, are they going to do it? And
yep.
Thank God they didn't, because I would definitely be very more critical of this match if they did.
Yeah, nothing against Scorpio. It's just not the time to do that, or it makes no sense with him being a tag team champion as well. So maybe if he wasn't a tag team champion, I wouldn't even be so much against it as I was with him being a champion already. I just don't want to see both titles isolated, especially when we don't have anywhere we're going in terms of a next pay-per-view or anything. I think that's what kind of bothers me about the Hager and Dustin thing too, is we don't know when the payoff should be because we don't have a pay-per-view or a big event necessarily lined up. So I don't really know what we're building to except for next week, which is fine that we're always building to next week. There's just it's losing that feel of excitement because you're not building to anything, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think that they really should announce the next pay-per-view sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because we're talking about, we don't have to wait, we don't have to do this, we can do it right now, but what are we waiting for? The anniversary show, the homecoming show, Bash at the Beach? Because none of those are pay-per-views, they just have names, and I don't know what we're building.
They're kind of far away too. Those things are
they're
2 months
a couple
away.
Months out.
So even building to a event at that, if you're asking me, at the very latest, our next pay-per-view should be the end of January, early February. So that would be just after these announced shows of Bash at the Beach and stuff. So it would almost be weird to me to build to Bash at the Beach, because then the next couple weeks would be your pay-per-view. So it's weird scheduling right now. Once we do get an official announcement as to where the next pay-per-view will go, I think the television will feel a lot more smooth in terms of that, but it's not a huge problem. This just wasn't my favorite episode of Dynamite. There were a lot of things that I did enjoy, though. Cody's return, Emi Sakura and B. Priestley against Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander, Omega and Pac, Trent's match. So there was a lot that's worth being excited for going forward. There were just a couple of things that have sort of been focal points that are worth noting that just, I don't know if they're doing them the best way that they possibly could.
I would agree. Out of all the shows we've had, this might be my least favorite. And I'm not saying, I hated it, because I didn't hate it. There, like you said, there's a lot to like about this show. But overall, it's just, it was awkward and missed on a few different levels. And there were a lot of finishes I didn't like. So I don't know. But it's not the worst. I think we said that at the top, and we'll say it at the bottom. It's not the worst thing, and not every AEW show is going to be the greatest show ever, so it's fine.
Well, and I almost don't, initially I probably would have agreed with you that this wasn't my favorite AEW show, or probably one of my least favorite, or the least favorite, but after going through just all the things that I did enjoy, it's kind of hard to say that it was my least favorite, but it wasn't. There was just some things, again, that I didn't love, but the direction of Jericho and Moxley is something I'm very interested in. I love the idea of Moxley hopefully being the next AEW champion, because that would be a good next guy, and a good guy for Omega to maybe chase as opposed to Jericho. So we'll have to see where that goes, and that's again where I just would like a pay-per-view to have an idea of where things might be going, not having to assume it would be in a week or two on just an episode of Dynamite.
Yeah, I would hope so.
But overall, AJ, what was your favorite match of the night or your match of the week that you think anyone who hasn't seen it needs to check it out?
I will say everybody should check out Jack Evans and Kenny Omega, but I think my match of the night and match of the week is going to be Jericho and Scorpio Sky.
Yeah, I think I have to say my match of the night, one worth checking out, despite me not loving the winner, has to be Omega and Pac. Both guys consistently give good matches, and you could tell this is just a TV version of what they should be doing, which I enjoy and appreciate. It was still a good match for the 12 minutes that it got. Both guys put on a great show every time they're in the ring. I agree with you that Scorpio versus Jericho was a fun match, but as you said in the beginning or in the middle of it about you enjoying it in our group chat, it didn't matter to me because I knew who was going to win, and that really is something in professional wrestling that you usually can have a good idea of who's going to win, but when you absolutely kind of without a doubt know what's going to happen, it really is hard to get invested. Like I said, there were a couple points where I really was like, holy crap, is that going to happen? But it would have just made me more annoyed than excited. I
hear you.
And it would have annoyed me that they would have put me in a position to be mad at Scorpio Sky's first title win. Because I like the guy. I want to see him succeed. And I want to see his first title win be really cool and exciting, not feel like a bad move. So and
that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the match itself was so good, and I thought Scorpio Sky looked so good in it that it's, for me, if I was going to recommend something off of this show, and if I was talking to somebody who goes, oh, I've never seen AEW before, I would say, all right, check this match out.
Yeah, and if you might kind of be like tired of Omega versus Pac, I don't know how you could be. You've seen that match before on All Out or whatever. I could understand maybe checking out Emi Sakura and Bea Priestley versus Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. I'm not going to go out on the ledge and say that's my main event of the night and say it was the best match, but really in terms of women's matches for AEW, it was a really good one. There was no hiccups, no like maybe this should have been on Dark feeling. Like it was a really good match, a really solid showcase for their women. So in terms of basically every match on the card, it was a really good card, maybe outside of MJF and Hangman. That one just didn't deliver to the quality maybe we were both expecting with the status of each talent. But nonetheless, a good show. There was just a lot of segments that felt either really long or weren't for me. Yeah, awkward is a good word for it too. But I don't want to sound like we're really complaining this whole episode. There were things that you could easily pick out and say were good, and who knows? I am interested to see where they go with next week's card. The two matches announced. What are your thoughts on those two while I quickly check out the dark matches from this week?
Trent and Fenix should be a great match. I mean, Trent and Pentagon had a great match. Hell, that could be my Wednesday night's main event. But overall, I'm thinking it's going to be pretty sick. The main event, like I said, it's not something I'm super excited for. It's not something I'm going to go, oh my God, I can't wait. Or oh, I wonder who wins. Because like you said, I think it's just going to end in a brawl. And I don't really care about that anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But overall, I think the matches are going to be good, and I think Trent and Fenix is reason enough to watch the
Fenix
show.
is every match we talk about with Fenix, I'm going to say is a banger because he's just a talent, and the way Trent finished that match and the way that Trent continues to look really well, I think that match could be really fun next week and could be a really exciting one next week. Let's go ahead and talk about Dark for next week. They announced that Nyla Rose is going to be doing commentary. We also have a matchup with Brandon Cutler taking on Jimmy Havok. We have Sonny Kiss taking on Sean Spears. And then we have the team of Proud and Powerful taking on Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy.
Right.
One interesting thing let's go ahead and just talk about the matches quick before we talk about the interesting note.
Well, I'm not very interested in the first two, but Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt versus... oh my God! The main event sounds Proud and Powerful. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
That is a match I want to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to out of Dark. The other ones I could take or leave it. Sonny Kiss, I've not really been sold on him, so that's hard for me to get into. But other than that, it sounds fine. It sounds like appropriate for Dark.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it will be interesting to see if maybe Luchasaurus gets involved in any way. We did see the Luchasaurus stare down with Jake Hager a couple weeks ago. That's a feud I would be much more interested in for Jake Hager, and a matchup that I would be much more interested in seeing. So I would like to see if maybe they continue that on Dark. But I think that's the one weird thing about AEW too, is they kind of have been crossing a lot of storylines between some of their top guys. Like Jake Hager, who would be then feuding with Dustin and the Jurassic Express at the same time, would be kind of weird. Same thing as Cody with MJF and this other new group. It's hard to keep track of as a fan who is very invested in AEW, let alone someone who might be a casual fan. So it's not a big complaint, but it is something worth noting. But it is a decent enough card for Dark. I think Jimmy Havoc, I like him. Cutler, you kind of know what's coming with a guy like Cutler. So, I think it will be interesting to hear Nyla Rose on commentary. But the one thing I did want to note is it doesn't really seem like Janela's involved in this show either. I could be wrong. He may be involved in the Shawn Spears match in some way. For people who aren't in the know, Janela made a tweet the other day about being upset with his booking in AEW. Not necessarily something AJ or I took as serious, but if it lasts a couple of weeks, you never know. I think that would be what they would have to do to make people really buy into it anyway. So I don't think you'll know for sure for like a month or two. If Janela really doesn't show up on AEW, then I would start believing. But until then, I think it could just be a setup for a feud. But with really nothing happening on Dynamite or Dark and any mention of him, who knows? Maybe that's really how Joey feels, and he's not down with AEW right now.
It could be. It's hard to tell with Joey Janela, man, because he's just one of those guys where you never know what he's doing, and I love that about him. But in this case, I really, really hope that this is a work and that this is building up to something, because I want to keep seeing Joey Janela on TV, frankly.
Yeah, I honestly, if you ask me, it's hard for me to buy into the idea that Joey all of a sudden is this full of himself once again. As someone who literally interviewed the guy, and he was putting over how excited and happy he was that guys like Jungle Boy and Marco were so humble and like so into being giving and stuff in wrestling. I don't foresee that meaning that Janela is going to like all of a sudden become some asshole who's mad about how he's been booked or tossed out of a battle royal. So it could be a work. Again, if they work me into believing it and it becomes a big deal for them, I would be down with it. But it's weird just based on the way he had interaction with Kip, and then this Shawn Spears feud has been like touch and go.
Yeah. I expect, like you said, it's a work, because even prior to that tweet, he was tweeting stuff out about AEW.
Yeah, so it could be, and he did delete the tweet, which kind of adds to the speculation that it's true, because why else would you delete something that could potentially get you in trouble with your employer? I just don't see him no-showing AEW and all of this. So, it is something we'll keep an eye on and continue to report on the podcast. We'll probably have more information on it on Monday if it is legit. I just find it hard to believe that Joey's that kind of person at this stage in his career. I think he's super humble at the opportunity. As I spoke to AJ about within the last couple of days, Janela literally was talking about how grateful he was to work Omega and Moxley within 1 year of AEW in like his style of matches. I don't think he's going to be that like short-sighted to feel that now he's being underutilized just because he's working with Shawn Spears. I just don't see it, man.
Yeah, no, I don't either. And honestly, it's not like he was written off TV. He had an angle. Probably. So if he was just gone from TV and he was just being used as a guy to lose to Mox and Omega, I would understand it. But the fact that he's in a program would make me think otherwise.
Yeah, so it's just in this being the angle too is weird to me. It doesn't do a lot to make Omega look, or not Omega, it doesn't make Janela look very good behaving this way on social media either. Not to say that would be in the wrong or anything. It's just like, it's kind of weird, you know? As a fan of Janela, even as a big fan of Janela, I'm not sitting here saying he should be booked much better than he has been. Again, he's gotten the matches with Moxley and Omega, and while he lost them both, he was put in a prominent stage, and when he's not put in a prominent stage, he essentially just wasn't on TV. How much more can you ask for? Now you're being put on TV again, and it's against someone with Shawn Spears. Now, if he had gone through the whole feud with Spears and did the job the whole way, it might be more understandable. It's literally also just so early in AEW that anyone feeling this way would just boggle my mind.
It would be absurd.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's just the way that I took it. It wasn't totally... I mean, it wasn't totally believable.
It's got to be a work. It has to be a work,
but it was believable enough to make us sit here and speculate on it, so...
Sure, that's fair.
We'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, nonetheless, an interesting week for AEW. A good enough episode of Dynamite. Not the best, not the worst, but definitely one worth checking out. Again, the match is worth checking out if you ask AJ. Chris Jericho versus Scorpio Sky. If you ask me, Kenny Omega versus Pac. But again, a great episode of Dynamite this week. AJ, go ahead and plug your social media.
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
As always, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at All Elite Everything. Check out our website, alleliteeverything.com. You can also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/All Elite Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at All Elite Andy. That wraps us up for this week. Till next time, see ya.
Bye-bye.